Good evening. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke about the opportunities that cooperation between India and the Russian Far East presents to both India and Russia, and announced a $1 billion line of credit for the development of the Russian Far East in his address to the plenary session of the Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok in Russia. He said, Act Far East has taken off and it will add a new dimension to India's economic diplomacy. The major takeaways from the second and final day of PM's Russia visit and more in this edition of Newsnight. I'm Munun Bhattacharya. First up, the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announces a line of credit of $1 billion at the Eastern Economic Forum at Vladivostok for development of the Russian Far East. Says Act Far East policy of India has taken off. Says development of the Russian Far East will open floodgates of opportunities for India and Russia. Prime Minister says US sanctions on Russia won't come in the way of strengthening economic relations between India and Russia. Putin says he cannot imagine an efficient international organization without India and China. On the second and final day of PM's visit to Russia, PM Modi holds bilateral meetings with Prime Minister of Japan, President of Mongolia and Prime Minister of Malaysia. PM raises the issue of extradition of Zakir Naik to India, with the Malaysian PM takes up cooperation in Indo-Pacific region with the Japanese Prime Minister. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, on a visit to South Korea, says India has never been an aggressor but has acted in self-defence, calls for strong measures against countries supporting terrorism, discusses a gamut of issues with the South Korean counterpart. Double whammy for P. Chidambaram in INX media case. The Supreme Court refuses anticipatory bail to P. Chidambaram in money laundering case lodged by the Enforcement Directorate. CBI Special Court sends him to judicial custody till 19 September in the case. Situation remains normal in Jammu and Kashmir a month after decision on Article 370, no daytime restrictions in over 90% of the state's territory. Landline services by and large restored in the valley. President Ramnath Kovind honours 46 teachers from across the country on Teachers' Day, stresses on the need to promote moral values while giving a boost to education. Prime Minister appeals for participation of teachers for spreading awareness against single-use plastic. India takes the lead with a goal from Sunil Shetty in the 24th minute against Oman in their first game of the 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifiers in Guwahati. At our focus this evening, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the plenary session of the Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok today. He is the first Indian Prime Minister to participate in this event. Prime Minister said that India is a proud and active participant in the various activities of the Eastern Economic Forum. This participation has come from top levels of government and industry in India. PM Modi made a landmark announcement extending a line of credit to Vladivostok that will further India's cooperation with regions of friendly nations.
हम सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास के मंत्र के साथ एक नए भारत के निर्माण में जुटे हैं। तेजी से बढ़ते भारत और उसकी प्रतिभा की इस रीजन से भागीदारी एक और एक 11 बनाने का ऐतिहासिक मौका।
PM Modi emphasized India's commitment to become a $5 trillion economy by 2024. Speaking at the Eastern Economic Forum, Prime Minister underlined India and Russia partnering not just in the mainland but also for the development of far-flung regions that are storehouses of potential. Moving from Act East to Act Far East, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced a $1 billion line of credit for Vladivostok.
फार ईस्ट के विकास में और योगदान देने के लिए भारत $1 बिलियन की लाइन ऑफ क्रेडिट देगा। यह पहला मौका है कि हम किसी देश के क्षेत्र विशेष को लाइन ऑफ क्रेडिट दे रहे हैं।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi described Vladivostok as the springboard for India to access Northeast Asia. The opening of a direct ship route from Vladivostok to Chennai will further deepen India-Russia ties. Prime Minister backed the need to move towards a new era of peace and progress in the Indo-Pacific region. He also warned against third-party interference in internal matters of any nation.
इंडो पैसिफिक रीजन में सहयोग का नया दौर हम शुरू करने वाले हैं। फार ईस्ट एक और यूरेशियन यूनियन और दूसरी ओर ओपन, फ्री और इंक्लूसिव इंडो पैसिफिक का संगम बनेगा। इस क्षेत्र में हमारे संबंधों का मजबूत आधार होगा रूल बेस्ड ऑर्डर, सॉवरेनिटी और टेरिटोरियल इंटीग्रिटी के लिए सम्मान और अंदरूनी मामलों में दखल से परहेज।
Appreciating the vision of President Putin for the welfare of Russia's Far East, Prime Minister Modi spoke of convergence of President Putin's vision and India's Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas journey of inclusive development. Prime Minister Modi's two-day visit to Vladivostok has steered India-Russia ties towards new vistas. The core focus that has emerged puts regions and their peoples at the center of broadening India-Russia ties. Mark Lane and Sudhakar Das in Vladivostok for DD News.
After taking questions from the press with President Trump on the sidelines of the G7 meet, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a frank and freewheeling session at the Eastern Economic Forum as well. He presented his vision on tackling global challenges as well as India's leadership in several spheres.
Host President Putin as well as Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other leaders participated in an extensive Q&A session at the 5th Eastern Economic Forum. Responding to a question on the re-entry of Russia into the G8, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe expressed his support for the proposition. President Putin extended an invitation to G8 partners to come to Russia to restore the G8. He said that he cannot imagine an efficient international organization without India and China.
But I think that everyone understands today, and President Macron has said recently in public that the Western leadership is over. I cannot imagine an efficient international organization that works without India and without China.
Remember, after the recently concluded G7 summit, President Donald Trump expressed his support for reinstating Russia into the G7. And French President Emmanuel Macron agreed with him. Russia was suspended from the G8 in 2014 after the annexation of Crimea. Several questions were also posed on the issue of energy security in the context of the tensions around Iran, including US sanctions on Russia. Prime Minister Modi categorically said that India only protects its interests in the region and its actions are not targeted against any nation.
भारत का इतिहास दुनिया के सामने है। यूएन का जो पीस कीपिंग फोर्स है उसमें सबसे अधिक योगदान करने में भारत की बहुत बड़ी भूमिका रही है। तो भारत के सैनिक हमेशा पीस कीपिंग फोर्स के अंतर्गत ही काम करने के आदी रहे हैं। आज तक हमने कभी भी आज़ाद भारत ने ऐसी कोई प्रवृत्ति नहीं की है, लेकिन जहाँ तक हमारे एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी का सवाल है, हम अधिकतम ईरान पर डिपेंडेंट रहे हैं हमारे एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी के लिए। भारत के हमारे जो ऑयल टैंकर हैं उसकी सुरक्षा की व्यवस्था है। हमने किसी को टारगेट करना या किसी की व्यवस्था में दखल देना न ये हमारा लक्ष्य है न हमारी योजना है।
Replying to a question on US sanctions impacting trade ties, especially in oil between India and Russia, Prime Minister said that a debate is on the global impact of sanctions imposed on any one country. He said that the fact that the inking of close to a dozen pacts, of which 4 are in the energy sector, go to show that these sanctions are not a deterrent to mutual trade.
भारत का ऑयल एंड गैस के क्षेत्र में इन्वेस्टमेंट है। रशिया की कंपनियों का भी खास करके टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफ़र, डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, एनर्जी के क्षेत्र में अभी अभी इन्वेस्टमेंट हुआ है। तो हम दोनों देशों के बीच में ऐसी कोई रुकावटें नहीं है। जिस देश के लिए सैंक्शन लगते हैं उस पर इसका कितना प्रभाव होता है वो एक बात है, लेकिन उसके कारण दुनिया के अन्य देशों पर जो प्रभाव होता है, विश्व की ओवरऑल इकोनॉमी जो प्रभाव होता है, उस पर आज विश्व में गहरी चिंता भी है, चर्चा भी है।
The moderator quizzed the leaders on their commitment to clean energy and clean mobility. Prime Minister highlighted India's commitment to clean energy. He said that India will achieve the target of 175 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2022. PM also highlighted India's potential to emerge as a global hub for electric batteries that power green vehicles. He said that solar-powered electric vehicles should be encouraged. Ensuring solar-powered clean cooking gas for 250 million families is another target for the Modi government to achieve. Prime Minister also spoke of cross-subsidies to boost the solar sector.
Right now, India has this superpower image in ITCs and software, and youth and computer technologies are inextricably linked in many minds. What about youth and economic? How do they intertwine together?
भारत दुनिया का आज सबसे युवा देश है। इंफॉर्मेशन कम्युनिकेशन टेक्नोलॉजी में भारत ने अपने एक महारत हासिल की है। स्टूडेंट एक्सचेंज फॉर इनोवेशन एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, स्टार्टअप एक बहुत बड़ी ताकत आज भारत की उभर कर रही है। हम दुनिया में पहले 3 में हमने अपनी जगह बनाई है। भारत के यूथ उसमें इनिशिएटिव ले रहा है। हम उसमें दुनिया के इस प्रकार का जो इनोवेटिव माइंड के यूथ है उनको हम जोड़ना चाहते हैं।
With a focus on Far East Asia, leaders from the region exchanged free and frank views on various global challenges. The collective view that emerged was that there is no denying India's and the region's key role in what is being called Asia's century. Mark Lin and Sudhakar Das in Vladivostok for DD News.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi held 3 bilateral meetings with world leaders on the second day of his Russia visit. The Prime Minister met the leaders of Japan, Malaysia and Mongolia and discussed issues of mutual interest. More in this report.
Day 2 of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Russia visit saw a series of bilateral meetings. During the meetings, the Prime Minister held talks on issues of bilateral, regional and international issues. Prime Minister Modi met his Japanese counterpart Shinzo Abe. The meeting came after the two Prime Ministers interacted at the G20 summit in Osaka and G7 summit in Biarritz. PM Modi and PM Abe conveyed birthday greetings to each other.
आपने मुझे जन्मदिन की बधाई दी, मैं भी आपको जन्मदिन की बधाई देता हूं, क्योंकि हम दोनों सितंबर में जन्म लिए हुए लोग और आगे चल करके हमारे संकल्पों को पूरा करने के लिए दृढ़ निश्चय के साथ साथ मिलकर के आगे बढ़ने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं।
The two leaders held in-depth discussions on a wide range of subjects, particularly bettering trade and cultural relations between India and Japan. They also exchanged views on deepening multifaceted ties in economic, defense and security, startup and 5G areas.
The first 2+2 ministerial meeting, that is the foreign and defense ministers of the two countries, will have a meeting preferably before this annual summit. And in that context, Prime Minister Abe also mentioned the ongoing visit or the just concluded visit of Raksha Mantri to Japan. And he remarked that during the visit of Raksha Mantri to Japan, substantial issues had been discussed on taking forward our exchanges and cooperation in the field of defense. And he hoped that some of the discussions would lead to outcomes during the annual summit.
Prime Minister Modi also held discussions with his counterpart of a key ASEAN partner nation, Malaysia. The discussions focused on the multiple layers of India-Malaysian bilateral relationship. PM Modi explained to the Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad the rationale behind New Delhi's decision on Jammu and Kashmir. During the talks, Malaysia condemned all forms of terrorism. During the meeting, India also raised the issue of extradition of Zakir Naik, wanted in India for alleged terror activities.
जहाँ तक जाकिर नाइक की बात है, जी हाँ, प्रधानमंत्री ने इस बात को उठाई है और हम दोनों पक्ष ने ये तय किया है कि हमारे अधिकारी इस पे संपर्क बनाए रखेंगे.
The third bilateral of the day was Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meeting with Mongolian President Khaltmagin Batulga. The two leaders reviewed the full range of bilateral ties and deliberated on ways to enhance cooperation. Apart from discussing development partnership and other areas of bilateral cooperation, the two sides discussed the line of credit.
Mongolian president is slated to come on a state visit to India, in fact later this month. In that context, a number of outcomes were discussed, a number of projects on which there is ongoing work, particularly the assistance we are giving in building a major oil refinery to meet Mongolia's energy needs through a line of credit was discussed.
Prime Minister's meetings with the leaders of Japan, Malaysia and Mongolia on the sidelines of Eastern Economic Forum not only focused on ways to further strengthen ties with these nations, but also exploring new areas of cooperation in the Far East region. With Sudhakar Das, Mark Lynn's report, DD News, Vladivostok.
And that brings us to our In Focus tonight, which is diversifying Act East to Act Far East. To talk about that, we have with us Navtej Sarna, former ambassador, and Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi. He is an economist and DG with RIS. I welcome you both to Newsnight. I'll begin with you, Ambassador Sarna. Are we seeing Act East being expanded into Act Far East?
I wouldn't say that you're seeing Act East being expanded into Far East. I think it's a separate move. It's a different thing that the two will no doubt link up. But this is something, Act East is something which we have been now talking about for a fairly long time. In fact, we started with Look East and then became Act East. But that has been more with an ASEAN-centric focus. But when you're looking at Act Far East, I think this is, in some ways, this is virgin territory. And this is looking at the entire Far East of Russia in this present context, and not only, because it is also going to look at the Arctic and the opening up of the Northern Sea route and other potential mineral resources, oil and natural gas resources of the Arctic, because once the global warming is happening at the rate it is happening, in 20 years you can expect ice-free summers in the Arctic, which will reduce container travel time by as much as 10 weeks between China and Northern Europe. So I would say that what the Prime Minister said in terms of Act Far East is a new move. It is a new approach. It will link up with several other things that are happening with the Act East as well as with the Indo-Pacific.
Okay, so it's a new policy. It should be seen beyond Act East, a policy that was enumerated long back and is very much in the works. Dr. Chaturvedi, are we seeing a new dimension play out in economic diplomacy?
Definitely, Manmohan. If you look at the broad dimension of China's resistance in terms of any reference to Indo-Pacific and Russia at times quietly standing behind, now this move has in a way got Russia on table in terms of discussing the Indo-Pacific, what Prime Minister alluded to while referring to free, open, inclusive and prosperous Indo-Pacific, and Russia is party to that. And as Ambassador Sarna very rightly mentioned, Act Far East and Act East that way are going to get linked up, are going to be converging. So this is a big diplomatic move by India, bringing in the heft that is required in terms of the FAR Connect. If you recall, during one of his visits to US, PM had said that and he was asked where would this Act East stop, and he said we come back to our the Western partners. So that's where the reach of the Act East is, and today it has really happened. So what was discussed in 2016 is back here on table, much more firmly grounded with full granularities and details in terms of how trade, investment and technological connects would be there with Russia.
Ambassador Sarna, what does this cooperation between India and the Russian Far East mean strategically in the Indo-Pacific region?
You see, I think in many ways we have been looking at Russia as in terms of a Moscow relationship. And this is what the Prime Minister has said, that the relationship is much wider and it has to be spatially wider. And I think that the fact that this meeting took place in Vladivostok should not be lost on anyone. Strategically, this, we have been absent in that area, although we were the first country to open a consulate in Vladivostok. But in terms of actual feet on the ground, in terms of industry, in terms of our investments, in terms of our presence of our people, in terms of our presence in the shipping routes, etc. Now, for instance, we are members, as observer members of the Arctic Council since 2013, but this is the first time we are seeing something really concrete happening, which will enable us to take advantage of whatever happens in the Far East. So strategically, I would say that India's presence there today in the East Economic Forum, along with the other Eastern leaders, speaks volumes for our commitment and for our vision to make sure that we are not left out as the world changes in terms of the economic focus moving towards the potential of the Far East. So whether it is minerals, whether it is oil and natural gas, whether it is strategic presence, whether it is maritime presence in terms of freedom of navigation, whether it is partaking of new trade routes. For instance, in the joint statement, there is a reference to a new maritime route from Chennai to Vladivostok.
Yes.
So, I think this visit is very productive in that sense, that we have a concrete shape to a vision there in a strategic move to be present in the Far East.
Dr. Chaturvedi, it is for the first time that India has extended a line of credit for a particular region in a country. In this particular case, $1 billion have been announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the Far Eastern region of Russia. Now, having said that, how can this economic partnership become a win-win partnership for India and Russia, so much so that 1 + 1 becomes 11 and not 2?
But if you see, since 2014, Prime Minister Modi has given a completely new push and impetus to lines of credit and the projects which are being implemented within this. The whole monitoring mechanism that he introduced in terms of closely following with his team and our missions across for timely implementation of projects and lines of credit is one dimension of it. But second is to enhance the ecosystem within which LOCs have been working. So the guidelines have been revised, new guidelines are in place, and using this instrument for our partners in terms of ensuring mutual gain, what you said about win-win partnership. So that mutual gain is something which is the bottom line of lines of credit. We are sparing resources, because India is requiring them back home here, but we are sparing them, so there is an opportunity cost of that, but Russia is gaining it, or whichever is a partner country, and we are seeing that this instrument is now increasingly also being leveraged for South Asia. We saw that in Bangladesh, in CLMV region, and also in Africa. So you are seeing that a usage of LOC within our development cooperation spectrum has enhanced. More and more of it is being used. But in case of Russia, you are absolutely right that this is for the first time we have engaged, and I think as President Putin has already indicated, this is beginning of a new partnership, where both the countries are going to gain. Prime Minister in his statement has also made it clear that the areas where not only the partner countries require in terms of infrastructure deficit, resource exploitation, and their usage for collective economic development would be a priority area, and that's where we stand committed with our partner countries.
Ambassador Sarna, what is the significance of Prime Minister's statement in his plenary address at the Eastern Economic Forum today, that the cooperation in this region would be based on a rules-based order? He also spoke about respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity of the countries and non-interference in the internal affairs of countries?
Well, these are the same principles with which India has espoused in its engagement with the world as such. So it is nothing new, but it is an underlining of these principles because, for instance, particularly when you see the way China has behaved in terms of the BRI, in terms of its projects with several countries in the Indo-Pacific. In fact, the Indo-Pacific itself is a rule-based response to China's more robust, what has been called predatory economics into the countries, by which the fact that China builds projects in a country, the countries tend to lose sovereignty, not only of that project, but sometimes sovereignty of the entire country, or are in danger of doing that. So, as in the Indo-Pacific, similarly in our approach to the Far East, I think the fact that is being underlined is that this is rule-based. This is a win-win situation for all. It is based on respect for territorial integrity. It is based on international law. Is in a way its code word for saying that this is a better offer on the table than what China is offering.
Okay, Dr. Chaturvedi, do you see complementarities between President Putin's vision for the Far East in Russia and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas in India?
Certainly, this is what it is indicating. In fact, PM also referred to this in his speech and later while answering some questions. So this definitely supplements the larger efforts. These efforts are also very much evident in terms of India's standing sort of invitation in terms of partnering the whole Eurasian zone, and as you know, we are also giving a final shape to India-Eurasia free trade agreement, where again some of these partnerships and engagements, particularly through development cooperation partnership, would come forward. So it is definitely moving in terms of an inclusive order where prosperity is to be shared, and as Ambassador Sana rightly mentioned, it is bringing in the equity and collective advancement rather than dominance of one actor with predatory tendencies.
Now, during the question and answer session of the Eastern Economic Forum, Ambassador Sarna, we saw how Russia spoke about the prospect of it being reinstated into the G8. It is now the G7 with Russia out. Earlier during the G7, we saw support for that coming in from the United States as well as France. When Prime Minister Modi was asked about a possible G10, then the PM said that we believe in a multipolar world and we believe in equal representation. Do you see going forward G7 being expanded into a G8 or maybe a G10?
Well, I think if things move simply on the basis of justified facts on the ground, then certainly I would see a G10. Because there's very little you can do in terms of economic engagement around the world if you're going to keep out 1/6 of humanity. I'm simply talking of India and the role that we are going to be playing in the coming decades on the world, in the world's economy. And the supply chains and so many other factors. So, however, these are things which are, as we have seen in the case of the United Nations Security Council, it's not simply based on the justified facts on the ground and contributions of countries that these decisions are taken, but these are highly politicized moves. So I think a lot of heavy lifting will no doubt have to be done when these forums are expanded, as we have seen in the case of the United Nations Security Council. And I think similarly, while there would be voices already wanting Russia back into the G8, I'm not sure that whether these are in unison all across the G8 or the proposed G8. So I think some more work will have to be done, but ultimately the realities of India's economy, there will be the weight, will be the factor that will play a role in getting us into the group like we are today in the G20. You will recall the time that when we used to be on the periphery of the G8, and we used to be called as special invitees to sit outside the tent and have one meeting with the G8, and ultimately I think the realities changed, and today you have the forum like the G20, which meets regularly, in which India is represented as a solid contributing member of the G20. So things change, and realities happen, but yes, there is international politics to handle in the meantime.
Dr. Chaturvedi, on the question of the impact of US sanctions on Russia on the economic relationship between India and Russia, PM Modi said that a debate is on currently in different parts of the world on what impact such sanctions have not just on the particular target country but also on other countries. What is the significance of this statement?
This is absolutely important statement which has been undermined by countries that have initiated unilateral sanctions. PM further elaborated in terms of impact on India of the sanctions on Iran when oil supply is adversely affected, or even on supply of medicines for our people in Iran. So these kind of cross effects of these processes is what PM was trying to draw attention at, and I think it is important. PM had also mentioned this in the G20 meeting, where a couple of other heads of state also joined him when they criticized the idea of unilateral sanctions and not bringing in an inclusive order, which you were discussing earlier in terms of what change we want in global order. So I don't think if India sitting on the high table with countries and then leaving the larger partners outside it, what is important is to change, and I think that's where the economic heft is absolutely important and essential for us to leverage the power that is required in terms of making the global order really inclusive. So unilateral sanctions are adversely affecting not only the countries they are targeted at, but also others with which they have trade and economy linkages.
Now, on a question that was asked to the Prime Minister on whether India would send forces to the Strait of Hormuz, the Prime Minister said that India has sent forces under UN peacekeeping missions only, and that India is not an aggressor, and that India believes in self-defense. Isn't this traditionally the position that India has taken with regard to different parts of the world, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and now the Strait of Hormuz as well? Ambassador Sarna? Well,
absolutely. I think, India has been a very active member of UN peacekeeping forces. We have participated in perhaps every major peacekeeping operation that has taken place since the formation of the UN. We have lost a lot of people in the UN, but we have always gone under the UN flag. And yes, we have conducted operations, for instance, against piracy in the Indian Ocean with the US, with the Indian Navy and with the other navies like the US Navy and others. But that has also been under a certain international understanding of the way, and that is the way India moves. And as the Prime Minister said, that it's a question of protecting our own tankers and our own vessels, but India's presence in any other form is not something that has ever been envisaged or has been acted out at all. So I think India has always taken the view that these differences, for instance, the differences on Iran, since you mentioned Hormuz, as reflected in the India-Russia joint statement, that differences on the JCPOA, for instance, must be sorted out through dialogue and through a peaceful resolution, and that's been our traditional stand.
Dr. Chaturvedi, to a question on whether India is an economic power in terms of its demographic dividend, the power of its youth, that is, and its IT prowess, the Prime Minister spoke about how he believes in tapping student exchanges as well as startups for bringing about technological solutions. Has India emerged as a superpower in economic and demographic dividend terms already in terms of IT, ICT and youth?
Definitely, Manmohan Prime Minister did mention about the idea of student exchange. From that perspective, PM also suggested that innovation and technology are the two important areas where student exchange is feasible, possible. I wouldn't say that we have arrived. We have to go a long way. Prime Minister has given example of startups and also leveraging technology for development of startups. But important here is in terms of connecting with the partner countries, and that's what Prime Minister's idea was. If you recall, PM had made similar suggestion in BIMSTEC as well when he was in Kathmandu, and he had suggested that young students are most welcome. If you see the iTech program of Ministry of External Affairs, the number of students has multiplied, and even the line ministries, whether it's Science Technology Ministry or other line ministries, the number of students has gone up. And connecting that with business today, several agreements have been signed by the delegation which FICCI led, and this brings in the necessary traction that is needed for business to business partnership. That's where youth would get connected, that's where the startups would get connected, and this is what something I think extremely important. If you see G2G agreement, there is one agreement which talks about an investment fund to promote startups and technology exchange. So this ecosystem that we are creating for transmission of technology, for sharing of technology, the idea of International Solar Alliance, PM also referred to India emerging as a hub for batteries, is something where the backbone for expansion of new sector comes in. He also alluded to the idea of electric vehicles. So you find the movement towards clean energy, movement towards innovation and technology, the idea of battery and solar cells, I think are largely targeted in terms of this power that young population of our respective countries and the student exchange would bring on the table.
Absolutely. So
it's
cooperation
absolutely important
across sectors is getting a boost as a result of Prime Minister's visit to Russia. Thank you, Ambassador Sarna, as well as Dr. Chaturvedi, for having joined us in Newsnight tonight. Just before Prime Minister Narendra Modi concluded his 36-hour-long visit to Vladivostok, the Russian president took him as well as the other leaders to a stadium to watch an international judo tournament currently taking place in the city. President Putin's penchant for martial arts is well known. He started practicing judo when he was just an 11-year-old and went on to secure an 8th rank black belt. Sports for youth empowerment as well as boosting tourism figured in the address of several leaders who spoke at the Eastern Economic Forum's plenary session. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met the Indian contingent participating in the annual International Jigoro Kano Judo Tournament at the Fetisov Arena. In what's come as a double whammy for former Union Minister P. Chidambaram in the INX media case, the Supreme Court refused anticipatory bail to him in a money laundering case lodged by the Enforcement Directorate. And the special CBI court sent him to judicial custody till 19 September in this case, that is for 14 days.
Despite desperate and frantic last-minute efforts by his lawyers, former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram will ultimately have to go to jail. A Delhi court has sent him to 14 days judicial custody till September 19th. The court pronounced its order on the CBI plea that P. Chidambaram be sent to judicial custody in the INX media corruption case. Earlier, court reserved the order after Chidambaram's counsel opposed the plea for judicial custody and instead offered that he be taken into Enforcement Directorate custody in the money laundering case arising out of the INX media scam. Chidambaram was produced before a Delhi court on Thursday after expiry of his 2-day CBI custody in the case. Chidambaram's 15-day custody, which started after his arrest on August 21st night, ended on Thursday. In yet another setback, on the same day to the former Union Minister, the Supreme Court refused to grant him pre-arrest bail in the INX media money laundering case lodged by the Enforcement Directorate. The top court dismissed Chidambaram's plea challenging the High Court verdict denying him anticipatory bail in the case. A bench of Justices R. Bhanumati and A.S. Bopanna said that it is not a fit case to grant anticipatory bail. They further added that economic offence has to be dealt with differently as it affects economy of the country and that grant of anticipatory bail to Chidambaram at this stage will hamper investigation. Anticipatory bail is not a matter of right, and refusing the relief is not a violation of Article 21 according to the Supreme Court. Chidambaram, however, can approach the court concerned for grant of regular bail in the case. Court also rejected Chidambaram's application for direction to the Enforcement Directorate to produce transcripts of his questioning conducted by the agency on 3 dates.
कोर्ट ने विषय को पूरा सुन के उस पर अपनी राय और अपना ऑर्डर दिया है। अब उस ऑर्डर का पालन होगा। अब ये जांच एजेंसी ने तय करना है कि आगे की कार्रवाई क्या होगी, और जहां तक इस विषय का राजनीतिकरण करने का एक प्रयास हो रहा है वो उचित कहां है, क्योंकि ये मामला कोर्ट के सामने गया, पूरे उन्होंने अपने अफसरों का प्रयोग किया, अपनी बात पूरी रखी है। अब उसके बाद यदि कोर्ट ने तय कर दिया है कि हिरासत में लिए जा सकते हैं, तो इसका राजनीतिकरण करने का तो कोई औचित्य बनता ही नहीं है, ना अवसर बनता है।
The CBI had lodged an FIR on May 15, 2017, alleging irregularities in FIPB clearance granted to INX Media Group for receiving overseas funds of Rs 305 crore in 2007 during Chidambaram's tenure as Union Finance Minister. Thereafter, the Enforcement Directorate also lodged a money laundering case. The Delhi High Court had, on August 20th this year, rejected anticipatory bail pleas of Chidambaram in the INX media scam cases lodged by the CBI and ED. The High Court held that Chidambaram was prima facie the kingpin in the INX media corruption and money laundering cases. Meanwhile, a Delhi court on Thursday itself granted anticipatory bail to former Finance Minister Chidambaram and his son Karti in Aircel Maxis cases filed by the CBI and ED, saying that charges against them were not of grave magnitude. With inputs from Vikas Sarthi and Anil Punia in New Delhi, Newsnight Desk, DD News.
The situation remained normal in Jammu and Kashmir a month after the decision on Article 370. There are no daytime restrictions in over 90% of the state's territory, and landline services have by and large been restored in the valley.
It's been a month since the abrogation of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir, and the past month has seen the situation in the state undergoing rapid changes. In most parts of the valley, the situation is normal, with restrictions lifted over 90% of the region during the day. Most landlines are functioning, and mobile connectivity is expected to be fully restored soon. Security forces say that the past 30 days have been the most peaceful in the state. The biggest challenge after the August 5th decision had been to ensure normalcy in the state. Militant elements and the sponsors from across the border did try to create mischief, but all their attempts were foiled. For the first time, people refused to respond to a terrorist call for bands and marches. With not a single incident of terrorist violence for a month, this has been one of the most peaceful periods in the state in years. In Srinagar alone, maximum number of private cars were seen plying on roads in a long time. Street vendors have started their businesses and government offices remained open.
कश्मीर घाटी में धीरे धीरे हालात सामान्य हो रहे हैं और घाटी में तकरीबन सभी जगहों पर टेलीफोन सेवाएं बहाल कर दी गई हैं, जिससे कम्युनिकेशन को लेकर जो दिक्कत हो रही थी उसमें काफ़ी कमी आई है। लोग टेलीफोन के जरिए बात कर पा रहे हैं। कुपवाड़ा और हंदवाड़ा में पहले से ही मोबाइल सेवाएं बहाल हैं। कई और जगहों पर मोबाइल सेवाओं को बहाल करने पर विचार चल रहा है।
In other areas like Rajouri too, the situation has been peaceful, with people going about their daily activities in a peaceful manner.
बड़ी खुशी हुई है, हालात बिल्कुल नॉर्मल हो चुके हैं राजौरी पुंछ के, जम्मू प्रोविंस के, और अभी मोबाइल जो है पुंछ में कल चले हैं और यहाँ पर भी एक हफ्ते से चालू हैं। राजौरी के हालात इंशाल्लाह थोड़े पीसफुल हो गए हैं, पटरी पर आ गए हैं, स्कूल जो है वो मूल के मुताबिक खुले हैं, आना जाना बराबर है।
In Samba as well, normal life went on as usual, with people going about their daily routine freely.
कोई आने जाने में रोक टोक नहीं है, कोई भी कोई किसी भी तरह की प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, सब तो फेयर चल रहा है, जैसे आगे चलता था वैसे ही चल रहा है।
जहाँ के वातावरण बहुत अच्छे हैं सांबा के, और जब से 370 हटी हुई है सांबा में बहुत अच्छा लोगों का जोड़ा रहा। बाजार मार्केट खुली, 1-2 दिन सब खुला ही रहा इधर।
अब सब नॉर्मल है, सब बच्चे स्कूल जा रहे हैं, सभी अपने अपने काम में जैसे दिनचर्या जैसे पहले थी वैसे ही उसी में व्यस्त है।
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has set aside all hearings on petitions against the abrogation of 370 till the 16th of September. Editor of the Kashmir Times has petitioned the court that the newspaper has been banned from publication in Srinagar, to which the government has said that other newspapers are being published. But this particular paper is not doing so on purpose. Speaking on the situation in the valley, Attorney General K.K. Venugopal has said that restrictions continue to be lifted. In response to a report from the left's Sitaram Yechuri, party leader Yusuf Tarigami has been directed to be admitted into AIIMS in New Delhi for treatment. In addition, the court has granted Mehbooba Mufti's daughter permission to travel from Chennai to Srinagar to meet her mother. She has, however, been directed to travel in the city and the valley only after proper permission from the government. With Vikas Sarthi in Delhi and Srinagar Bureau, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on a visit to South Korea underlined that India has never been an aggressor but has acted in self-defence. He called for strong measures against countries supporting terrorism and discussed a gamut of issues with his South Korean counterpart.
Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh delivered a keynote address at the Seoul Defence Dialogue 2019 with the theme Building Peace Together, Challenges and Vision. He said the process of globalization is in danger now, and cyber attacks have emerged as a new challenge. The minister also said that no country is today unaffected by the menace of terror, and so pressure must be built on the terror-backing nations. Sending out a strong message, the defence minister said India has never been an aggressor in its history, nor will it ever be. But that does not mean that India would balk at using its strength to defend itself.
भारत ने अपने इतिहास में कभी भी एग्रेसर की भूमिका में नहीं रहा और न ही ऐसा कभी होगा, यह भी मैं विश्वास दिलाना चाहता हूं। लेकिन इसका मतलब यह नहीं है कि भारत अपनी रक्षा के लिए अपनी ताकत का इस्तेमाल ही नहीं करेगा।
From here, Seoul, Rajnath Singh conveyed a strong message to the world. He said that everyone should come on a single platform as far as the fight against terrorism is concerned. And in this process, state-sponsored terrorism is key. And India is committed to eliminate this, and India is committed to expose those countries who are involved in this.
Rajnath Singh reiterated India's commitment of working for peace, whether be it from Fiji to Yemen, where India has been first in rendering humanitarian assistance. He also said India is committed to play a decisive role in Asia. The defence minister added that defence diplomacy is a key pillar of India's strategic toolkit. He said defence diplomacy and maintaining strong defence forces are two sides of the same coin.
भारत ग्लोबल लेवल पर यूएन और अन्य इंटरनेशनल फोरम्स के साथ साथ बाइलेटरल और रीजनल फोरम पर भी काउंटर टेररिज्म कोऑपरेशन हेतु काफी सक्रिय है। हम कलेक्टिव एक्शन के माध्यम से ही टेरर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस और उनके नेटवर्क्स को ध्वस्त करने, आतंकी घटनाओं को अंजाम देने वालों की पहचान करने और उनकी जांच करने में सक्षम होंगे। टेररिस्ट की सहायता करने और उनको फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट प्रदान करने वालों तथा उनको सह देने वालों के खिलाफ भी हम कड़े कदम उठाएंगे।
After the bilateral talks, 2 agreements were signed between India and South Korea. There has also been consensus between the two nations to enhance assistance in the field of security and education. The defence minister also paid homage to the martyrs of the Korea War at the mausoleum. He also recalled and remembered the contribution of Indian peace soldiers at the War Museum. With inputs from O.P. Das, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
President Ram Nath Kovind honoured 46 teachers from across India on the occasion of Teachers' Day today and stressed on the need to promote moral values while giving a boost to education. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi appealed for participation of teachers for spreading awareness against single-use plastic.
President Ram Nath Kovind conferred the National Award to 46 teachers on the occasion of Teachers' Day, observed every year on 5th of September. While addressing the gathering, President said that teachers must impart moral values in children along with the formal education. He added that a bridge must be built between digital learning and personality building.
विवेक सम्मत ज्ञान ही मानवीय समस्याओं का समाधान कर सकता है। इसीलिए वैश्वीकरण और स्पर्धा के इस दौर में भी हमें आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस और ह्यूमन कंपैशन का समन्वय करना होगा। हमें डिजिटल लर्निंग और कैरेक्टर बिल्डिंग में सामंजस्य बनाना होगा। ऐसे विवेकपूर्ण ज्ञान के आधार पर ही हम सब जलवायु परिवर्तन या क्लाइमेट चेंज, प्राकृतिक जल स्रोतों और जंगलों में हो रही कमी, जीवधारियों की अनेक प्रजातियों के लुप्त होने के संकट, पिघलते हुए ग्लेशियर, जहरीली हवा व खाद्य पदार्थों से जुड़ी समस्याओं का समाधान कर सकते हैं।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also tweeted a video to extend his greetings on the occasion. In a video, he said, "This is a day to salute the entire teaching fraternity for their hard work, dedication and commitment. In addition to teaching subjects in the classroom, teachers are exceptional guides and mentors who play prominent roles on the lives of their students." Prime Minister also urged teachers to play active role in cutting the use of plastic. He said, "This Teachers' Day, I have a request for my fellow teachers. As you are aware, India has taken up a mass movement to eliminate single-use plastic. I seek the active support and participation of the teaching community in this movement. If teachers explain to students the harm caused to our environment by single-use plastic and advise them to shun it, students will feel motivated to become a part of the cause. This would be a great tribute to beloved Bapu on his 150th Jayanti." The awardee teachers, on the other hand, expressed their gratitude and said that interaction with President will always be a memorable event in their life.
मुझको लो कास्ट मटेरियल टीचिंग मटेरियल बनाने के लिए आईसीटी के प्रयोग करने के लिए और बच्चों को सोशल सर्विस में जोड़ने के लिए पुरस्कार मिला है।
मैंने बच्चों को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए जो रीडिंग कॉर्नर है वो मैंने डेवलप किया कि पढ़ाई के ऊपर बच्चों का रुचि आए और जो बच्चे पीछे मतलब थोड़ा बहुत स्लो है वो भी आगे बढ़ जाए।
अभिवंचित वर्ग में खासकर डोम जाति के जो बच्चे थे वो विद्यालय नहीं आ रहे थे, नाम लिखा हुआ था लेकिन नहीं आ रहे थे। सर मैं उसे सबसे पहले लाके उस विद्यालय में उसको लाया और उसको शिक्षा देना प्रारंभ किया।
The main objective of the award, initiated in 1958, is to recognize the work of teachers in primary, senior secondary and secondary schools and to encourage excellency in teaching. With Rishi Kumar's report, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Chandrayaan-2's landing module Vikram was on Wednesday brought closer to the moon after its orbit was lowered further from where it will begin its final descent to pull off a historic soft landing on the lunar surface in the early hours of Saturday. Joined by 60 high school students from across the country, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be present at the ISRO Centre in Bengaluru to witness live the space feat. A successful landing, taking billion dreams to the moon, will make India the fourth country after Russia, the US and China to achieve a soft landing on the lunar surface, but it will be the first to launch a mission to the unexplored moon's south pole. United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification's Global Land Outlook report pegs the loss of world's forest at around 70%. The Amazon tops that list with a projected forest loss of 23 to 48 million hectares by 2030.
70% of the world's forests are at risk of degradation due to continuing net forest loss, according to the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification Global Land Outlook report. The report found that many tropical forests that were undergoing deforestation a few decades ago have now virtually disappeared. It noted that tropical forests decline at a rate of 5.5 million hectares annually from 2010 to 2015. The report also listed 11 deforestation fronts, areas where the largest permanent forest loss or severe damage are projected between 2015 and 2030. The Amazon tops the list with a projected forest loss of 23 to 48 million hectares by 2030.
First, efforts that must be focused in promoting sustainable land use practices in these areas, productive areas as the major priority, and after that look for the restoration of the forest that has been lost.
डेजर्ट का जो बेसिकली जो प्लांट्स का जो पाया जाना है वो डिपेंड करता है कि रेनफॉल ग्रेडियंट उस एरिया में कितना है। जहाँ पर रेनफॉल ग्रेडियंट 100 एनुअली रेनफॉल जो है 100 से 200 सेंटीमीटर है, वहाँ हम उनको कहेंगे कि आप यहाँ पर अकेसिया टोटलिस स्पीसीज लगाइए, अकेसिया सेनेगल लगाइए, क्योंकि ये स्पीसीज जो हैं उस एरिया के अंदर पाई जाती हैं। श्रब स्पीसीज़ के अंदर हम देखते हैं तो हम जनरली लेप्टाडिनिया पायरोटेक्निका के लिए बोलेंगे, लेप्टाडिनिया पायरोटेक्निका इज़ देयर एंड कैलिगोनम पॉलीगोनेट इज़ देयर। दोज प्लांट्स कैन बी सर्वाइव इन सच extreme climatic conditions.
Deforestation is a major cause of the loss of soil organic carbon. which plays an important role in combating desertification and land degradation. With the rate of deforestation higher in the tropics, the soil organic carbon loss is also higher in this region. To prevent deforestation and forest degradation, the report proposes an approach which combines facets of protection, creating protected areas, both community governed and otherwise, sustainable management involving judicious and sustainable use of resources and restoration. Tapush Bhattacharya's report, DD News, Greater Noida.
A look now at news from regions and regional roundup.
Tourism and Culture Minister Prahlad Singh Patel flags off first mobile science exhibition in Leh. For the first time, a national program is being launched from Leh. The mobile science exhibition will be moving to various schools in Leh district. Light utility helicopter designed and developed by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited has successfully demonstrated high altitude capability in extreme weather conditions in the Himalayas. A three-storied building collapsed in Ahmedabad in Gujarat. Several people are feared to be trapped under the debris. According to latest input, 7 people have been rescued safely from the site. The building was located in Amraiwadi. The situation is improving after heavy rains in Mumbai. Transport system has started running smoothly and services of the railways have also been restored. A woman in Andhra Pradesh created a world record, giving birth to twins at 74 years of age. She bore children 57 years after marriage. The delivery took place at a private hospital in Guntur in Andhra Pradesh. Doctors at the hospital made special arrangements to perform the delivery.
That's it then in this edition of Newsnight. Thanks for watching.
Hello and welcome. I am Chakshu Roy and you're watching Laws in the Making. Today on the show, we are discussing the Chit Funds Amendment Bill 2019. To discuss the bill, I have with me Mr. T.S. Sivaramakrishnan, President, All India Association of Chit Funds, and Mr. Mudit Kapoor, Associate Professor, Indian Statistical Institute. Chits are a mechanism through which a group of people come together for a predetermined duration and contribute a sum of money through periodical installments. Under a chit fund, people agree to pay a certain amount from time to time into a fund. Periodically, one of the subscribers is chosen by drawing a chit to receive the amount from the fund. Chit funds have become a mechanism through which people are able to either procure funds or save money. Chit funds are currently regulated by the Chit Funds Act of 1982. However, there have been several concerns with regard to the chit business.